What is that?
What's your name?
Olivia Hooker.
Olivia.
Hooker. Hooker.
Are you from Oklahoma?
Yep, I'm from Tulsa.
You're the original survivor.
That's right.
Oh, God.
Tell me a little bit about this story.
Yes, you do.
Wait, before
No.
you do,
Well,
I'm 77.
well,
Are you
I'm
much older than-
95, and I was 6 years old at the time of the disaster. I refused to call it a riot because it was really, whites decided to burn down the homes of 10,000 people. So that was not a riot. It was planned desecration. And so we were just small children. And my family had not told me about prejudice and hate and things like that. I thought everything in the preamble to the Constitution referred to me. I didn't find out until this terrible night that they...
This was a very prosperous community.
Yes, and they used to call it Black Wall Street. But it wasn't Wall Street, but, it was a prosperous community. But it was all 10,000 people, counting all the children and grown-ups who were made homeless by this riot, so what they called a riot. And it was 80 years before the state of Oklahoma actually had a commission to study it and remove the blame from us as victims and put the blame where it belonged on the Ku Klux.
What year was this?
1921. And my sisters and brothers knew about prejudice and things, but at that time I thought everything that we were taught at school actually existed. And so it was more devastating for me because it was such a shock. And when the mobs came in, they had those pine, knots all lighted up, and they set things on fire. And my mother refused to run because she was busy putting water on the house to try to keep it from burning. And so she put the children under the big oak table. They had those great big tables in those days with little nooks under them. So we were under the table when the mobs came in, and my mother had said, well, we have to eat no matter what, so she was cooking. And
That is true.
they got so angry that she had what she called her three-cornered pots on the stove, and she had something different in each pot. So they took those out and threw them in the backyard. Then they came back and took the beautiful brown biscuits out of the oven and took them out and smashed them in the mud. You see, we're under the table looking at all this, and so it was very devastating for me because I hadn't known about those things. You see, the only non-black people that I ever saw were people who wanted to sell my father things for his store. And they brought presents for the children and listened to my sister play the piano, how salesmen behave. I thought that's the way all non-black people behaved. I had no idea. And when they broke up my mother's Caruso records, and that broke her heart, but they didn't break the old rugged cross. You see, they're giving you a message. The old rugged cross. See, they're giving you a message, what you should and shouldn't have. And they took the hatchets and chopped my sister's piano, but they didn't know that it's the sounding board in the piano that is important. So they chopped the outside of the piano, and it didn't affect the tone of it, and they took my mother's luggage, but they didn't take my sister's little wicker basket. They took my mother's pigskin luggage. Being a psychologist.
You're a psychologist?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I received my PhD at the University of Rochester.
Jesuits, New York State, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, my goodness.
But,
As a psychologist, you came the New York area, right?
Well, I came to go to Columbia University
You went to Columbia.
after the war, after World War
World War
II.
II. I remember World War II.
And so I stayed because I was licensed in New York.
Did you work in the New York area for an agency or for the school system? Or?
Yes, I was the chief psychologist at the Kennedy Child Studies Center.
No.
And, but I also taught at Fordham in graduate school.
Wow.
So I retired from those two jobs.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's very impressive. I have psychologists in my family, but Fordham and the Kennedy Study Center is very well known. It's prestigious. So you basically were teaching or treating a lot of children as well as adults.
Yes, I was teaching. We were training school psychologists.
You were training school psychologists. Wow. He wants to know your experience in the Coast Guard. That was 41 to 45, right?
Yeah, well, I went in. I didn't go in till 45
You went in at 45.
because they weren't taking black women
Oh, wow.
in the Navy. See, the Coast Guard's part of the Navy during war,
Was it?
and so they were not taking blacks. But Mrs. Bethune and Mrs. Roosevelt started campaigning, and so finally the Secretary of the Navy was Forrestal. He decided I'm going to take them in and let these two ladies get off my back. But I waited to see who would join after we worked so hard to get the barrier removed. Nobody joined, and so finally I said,
I remember there was a singer in the Stork Club, Lima Horn. Was that? Do you remember that? That was also that.
yeah. Well, I decided, well, maybe if I join and if I live, some others will come, But there were eventually only 5 black girls joined.
That was the Spars. They called it
Yeah,
the Spars. My sister wanted to join, but I guess didn't. That was very gutsy. I mean, that's.
So those 5, they remained close friends until.
Still around?
No, 3 of them are dead now. There's just one left alive.
Say your name. It's Olivia.
Olivia J. Hooker, Hooker.